Welcome to Jurassic Park.
That's right. This is our episode on Jurassic World Rebirth and Scarlett Johansson. This is Alex from Los Angeles.
And this is Karen from Los Angeles. Welcome to Movies That Shaped Us. We're two longtime friends who grew up on opposite ends of the globe with very different backgrounds, but were both shaped and are still being shaped by the movies we see and love. In each episode, we cover a filmmaker who shaped our love of movies. Join us as we explore why they matter and review the three movies in their filmography that made the biggest impact on us. Okay, this is my Jurassic Park teeth impression.
Yeah, there. This is exclusive for the people watching on YouTube. You can see Karan's transformation into a T-Rex. I don't know how that'll translate to the podcast, but this is why you should subscribe on YouTube. So yeah, this is a big summer film, probably one of the biggest of the summer actually coming out. So I know both of us are huge fans of the original Jurassic Park, so we'll get into our thoughts on the new film and maybe the whole Jurassic Park franchise over the last, man, I think it's been almost like 30 years now they've been making these dinosaurs.
Gosh, wow.
Crazy. But first, we're going
We're
to get
old.
into the theme, the main focus of our episode, which is the star of Jurassic World, or at least the human star, because obviously the dinosaurs are always a star, but the human star of Scarlett Johansson. So this is an actress that I've been following for a long time in her career. She has a very long career, 20 plus years now in the business. And yeah, maybe Karan, I can start with
Yeah.
my thoughts on Scarlett Johansson, and we'll get into obviously the films of hers, but later on in the episode. Yeah, for me, I've been a fan for a very long time. She definitely was one of the first, or not first, but like early like on-screen crushes that I had. I found a lot to yeah, it's like her presence is very I don't know, alluring, I guess. She has this steeliness to her that I always found incredibly attractive. Like there's a mystery to her. She doesn't really she's very like deadpan, I guess is a way to
Mm-hmm.
describe it. So it's really just all of her acting is through her eyes and her voice and her intonation, which I think that's maybe just who she is. I don't really see her much in interviews and things because definitely all of her performances seem to have this about her. And I always found that very interesting and intriguing. I think it's been interesting too in her career. She's been able to apply that type of acting style or persona to all these different roles that you might think are very maybe not fully fleshed out on paper, but just she has this internalness to the way that you can always tell there's something going on behind her character and behind those eyes of hers, and just how she's not. You can't really see, like if you just looked at like a photo of her, you can't tell what she's feeling. But through the acting somehow, again, the voice and the eyes, it just kind of comes through. And I think she's done a lot of great performances. Several we'll get into on this podcast, but. Yeah, definitely an early crush for me of Scarlett Johansson, and she's still. I think she looks better than ever, to be honest, in this movie too. So I think she's aged incredibly well. So kudos to her and her team of nutritionists or whoever helps these stars still looking good. What about you? What is your Scarlett Johansson experience? Similar to me?
Well, not entirely, but but yeah, I think the word alluring is very appropriate and also sort of deadpan and kind of mysterious and steely and it's interesting to kind of think about her career as I was rewatching some of these movies that I mean she's been a part of our adult film watching lives since early even as teenagers I guess
Yeah.
so she's been around for such a long time and it's kind of incredible the career that she's had. Not many people are in that bucket of people who, started as child actors, then became teenage sensations, and then sort of she had this incredible run of kind of alluring, sort of sexy, sexual sort of roles, and then, of course, the Marvel run, and
Yeah.
then also in parallel and beyond the Marvel run, there's this kind of, auteur run, if you will, as well. And then she's also an action star. I mean, there are not that many people who are globally known like this and kind of seamlessly bounce between, big budget tentpole movies, but really auteur-driven movies. She's kind of worked with some of the best directors of, this generation, from Wes Anderson to the Coen brothers and what have you. So, and also kind of auteur indie people like Jonathan Glazer and
Mhm.
Spike Jonze, movies that we might touch on in our episode. So it's kind of incredible to see the career that she's had. I've I've been a fan, but she's not, in my top list of actors, actresses that I even think of, but I'm always pleasantly surprised by a performance that she gives, but it's somebody who's not on my mind.
Mm.
And I think I don't know what that is. Maybe it's because I came to her when she was in that, very sexualized sort of phase of her career that, on one hand can have a certain kind of impact. On the other hand, can also at least she kind of put my head, oh, that's what she does.
Mm.
Even though she's very good in those movies, and we will cover one of those movies from that time, but I think she kind of stayed there, and then she became a Marvel person, which she's good in those movies, but those movies, as people know who's listened to this podcast, that they don't make a huge impression on me per se, even though it's always fun to watch her and the commitment that she had in those movies, all the physical training. I mean, you can really tell that she's doing a lot of these stunts. So I admire her for all of that. But I never sort of considered her as a serious actress per se, even though she's always good. But then I'm always surprised when she's in a great movie, given a very good performance. So I don't know. I still have not pinned down my own thoughts and feelings about her as an actress, but what
Mhm.
I will say is that that mysterious allure and that steeliness is definitely her quality. And maybe as I'm talking out loud, my feelings are maybe a feature, not a bug, that that's sort of part of the thing that she's kind of hard to pin down and you can't kind of put her in a box and there's something mysterious and steely about her and you kind of go along this journey of what would Scarlett Johansson do now, that sort of a thing. She's also kind of put her foot in her mouth often, like, whether it's interviews or making certain choices or coming off as and sort of director's actress or intellectuals kind of star who's, paving the path and fighting the fight for more money or what have you. So I think there's some of that off-screen business actress thing as well that kind of has stayed on my mind a little bit. And I'm not negative on that. I mean, go you. If you can make more money and if you deserve it, why not? It's all good and it kind of paves the path for other people who don't have a voice. So I'm all for that. But it's also a little bit of kind of there's something childlike about the way she's gone about some of these things in my mind. I don't know. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's all I would say about
Interesting. Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, not to get into like off-screen sort of
Yeah.
stuff, but I think I'm very much admire her for not only
Yeah.
fighting Disney for that money that she deserved from the Black Widow film that was day and date release on Disney Plus and
Right.
theaters, but also the suing of the tech companies to go after them for stealing her voice for the
Yeah, that for
like her.
sure.
Like I'm very
Yeah.
glad that she cares to protect. Yes, it is obviously in her own self-interest, but she's paving the way for other actors or just people to follow in their wakes to protect themselves against giant corporations, whether they're tech or
Yep.
entertainment. So I actually think those are very admirable things that make me appreciate her just as a person, because obviously I don't know her. I don't really know much about her other than what's on screen, but I definitely shout out to her for those acts. I think it's really admirable and good that she continues to be pushing all against all these forces that are, you know,
Yeah.
trying to crush major actors, but also, minor actors and just people in general. So
Yeah, no,
very happy
that's
to
all
see that.
good. It's just some of the interviews and the way she talks about it. There's something sort of childlike about that.
Mm,
But that's the thing. She's been in this business for such a long time, so that maybe has something to do with it. I don't know.
mm.
But she's
Yeah.
obviously very smart and makes great choices and fights her fight, which is very admirable.
Yeah, yeah, and I do think too, I mean, you brought up the Marvel films and Black Widow. I thought that was an interesting choice of putting her in those films because she wasn't known for physicality. And actually,
No.
we covered the other actress who was supposed to get the role and was originally cast in it, Emily Blunt, had that role, and then because of a studio played some dirty tricks, Fox did to like take her off the project essentially. And then we ended up with Scarlett Johansson, who actually I think is a better choice for that character because so much of what
Agreed.
I love about Black Widow is due to how Scarlett is able to project this feeling of like regret from a dark
Mm,
past that she had that she's trying to redeem herself from, which is a key part of the Black Widow character. Not only obviously the great physicality of that character too, which she transformed into that. Like, it was not anything. I don't think she'd done any kind of action roles before doing
no.
that. And again, she does good in the action in those films, but to me, it's more like it always is with the Marvel films, like the characters. And I think her arc is especially powerful in terms of where, what she ends up doing in Endgame in terms of sacrificing herself and trying to then make up for all these horrible things that she's done in her past before she joined the Avengers. And I think that was brilliant casting, even though, again, wasn't the original casting of choice. But really, I do think that like her persona on film just matched with that character so well. And she did so many great things about it. Like I was saying, so adding things that weren't necessarily on the page, because some of the Marvel movies are great, some of them aren't that great. But if the actors are good enough in those parts, like whether it's Chris Evans or Chris Hemsworth or Scarlett Johansson, you still care about the characters and you love the
Mm-hmm.
film. So I just really want to give a shout out to her Black Widow performance. We're not talking about any of those films on the podcast today, but I want to have a special note to it because I do love that she's one of my favorite Avengers, and not so much so in the comics either. It was more like Scarlett's. I mean, maybe
Right.
there was because I have a crush on her, but it was
No, she's
awesome
very
because I
good
think
in
she just did a
those. She makes it
fantastic job
believable.
with giving that character a
Yeah.
some meat to the bones.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, speaking of meat. I don't know how this transition will work into Jurassic Park is dinosaurs eat meat. I don't know. Let's talk about the her latest film and the latest film that we're talking about here, which is Jurassic World Rebirth. So this film just came out here in July. So the IMDb plot summary: 5 years post Jurassic World Dominion, an expedition braves isolated equatorial regions to extract DNA from three massive prehistoric creatures for a groundbreaking medical breakthrough. That is a mouthful of a plot summary. This is directed by Gareth Edwards, written by David Koepp, who actually was the screenwriter of the original Jurassic Park, and starring Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, and I think those are real. Rupert Friend is also in it as well, but a lot of just unknown kind of actors in the film. So before I get into my thoughts on this, just like very briefly, huge fan of the original Jurassic Park, just one of the best films of all time. Then quickly devolved into sequel I didn't really like, Jurassic World. The second Jurassic Park, not a big fan of. Third one I liked at the time, but going back to it, I think it's not that great. Was the reboot of Jurassic World? I was okay with. It wasn't as good as the first one, but it was fine. The Chris Pratt added an interesting element to it. I liked the reopening of the parks, but then those next two Jurassic World movies were like almost unwatchable, just absolutely terrible. So this is essentially like a soft reboot on the franchise. That yeah, I actually enjoyed this film. I thought it was maybe like my second favorite Jurassic Park movie potentially. Though that's not saying much, like I said. I
Whoa.
mean, most of this franchise is not very good. But I like the return of the world. I like the kind of the reset of dinosaurs basically not being interesting or unique anymore, and or even in the modern world, like the Jurassic World films at the end of it, like dinosaurs are basically living everywhere next to humans, which was actually an interesting concept, but I think they did a really terrible job executing on what that would actually look like. They asked this interesting question, and then the answers they provided, they just sort of weren't interested in them. But
Hmm.
this movie, so I like how they kind of reset that a little bit. And this movie basically is a adventure monster film more than anything else. And I know obviously Jurassic Park, the original one, is there's a lot of monster film elements in it, but there's also some sci-fi, and there's a story about these characters growing and changing. And this movie they really don't. Like the characters are super flat and not really that interesting, frankly. But I think the dinosaur action scenes are great. Gareth Edwards does a fantastic job in capturing scale in his composition in all of his films, actually. And I think he was a perfect director to kind of take this on. And yeah, I think Scarlett Johansson too, like did a great, like very admirable job of basically taking a character that wasn't very interesting at all and but then at the same time, like leading not only the team, like she was basically like the team leader here, but also the film. Like I think I found her of that group, there were sort of two groups of characters in the film. I think of her group, she was the one who was most interesting just because I just like Scarlett Johansson and she can carry around this physicality, and in terms of what she was doing, I really believe like she could do that. Like scaling the mountains and hunting down the dinosaurs and shooting the dart guns. And it didn't feel like sometimes in these movies, actors sometimes feel lost in the world. No pun intended,
Running in
Jurassic Park lost
heels.
world. Running in heels, exactly true. That's a really good point to the first Jurassic World movie. So yeah, she was super believable, and again, I found this to be a very enjoyable summer blockbuster film, kind of what you're looking for from a summer film. So yeah, what were your first thoughts? And then we can continue to debate this film. What did you think
Yeah.
of Rebirth?
Yeah, I was not a big fan of this movie, but I've been sort of reflecting on sort of dinosaur mania and Jurassic movies in general in my mind. And the truth is that after the first one, really not been in the bag for any of these movies. I mean, you
Hmm.
said the same thing, but I don't think I've even seen most of them other
Mm.
than maybe the Chris Pratt one, the first one, because it was such a big event. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
sure. But I think, and also like where I grew up, which was in India, like for some reason, the whole Dino Mania kind of didn't penetrate the
Oh,
way it was
really?
everywhere. Yeah, I mean, even though
Interesting.
Jurassic Park was a huge hit, but
Right.
it wasn't like, you were swarmed and surrounded with dinosaur stuff and you had to
Oh,
have it. Like that was not, at least not for me and my sister. So we didn't sort of
that's
grow up
interesting.
with some of that, which was so, I bet, huge over here, right? And still
You
is.
never just went through a dinosaur phase like usually when you're
No.
like 3 or 4. Oh, really interesting. Are there dinosaurs in? I mean, this is maybe a stupid question to ask, but were there dinosaurs in India? Like I know in the U.S. They have all these excavation sites, and I mean maybe
Right.
just it's not as culturally.
I guess not. Maybe I actually don't know the answer to the question, but maybe not. Or maybe there were other, I'm sure there were other forms of
Well, right,
something,
right, right.
but not them. I don't know.
Huh. Wow. You
So yeah, it
never
wasn't
went to
really.
dinosaurs. Interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't totally there. So I think for me, the first movie kind of captures the wonder, the surprise. I mean, some of those iconic scenes and the science behind it, how they did it, the first time you meet them, in that green field and
Hmm.
the dynamic and the fun, also kind of the monster kind of, jarring moments. And so I think I was done with that. I really enjoyed it and I've seen it many times since, but there was no desire in my mind to go back and revisit this. So there's part of that I'm bringing to this movie as well, because I'm not that in the bag. That said, though, I think I will say that the director Garrett Edwards does a great job. Like the
Hmm.
movie looks great, and I know he's kind of become this darling of CGI movies that look good, like The Creator, which is not even that expensive. I know we covered that on this podcast, so
Right.
the movie looks great. I think they shot on film. They are in real locations. All the dinosaur design looks great. So I enjoyed all of that. I think it's more of just the plot and the characterization piece, which just is just completely lacking. I mean, you
Hmm.
could have cast literally anybody in these roles and it didn't matter, which sort of feels a bit like a waste because they have a good cast, like Vince
Hmm.
Scarjo and Mahershala Ali. And I actually like Jonathan Bailey, who's the paleontologist, the most because they
Oh,
gave
yeah.
him a little something to play with. At least he has some wonder about, seeing these dinosaurs for the first time and what have you. And you get that little moment, even though it's a little forced, because the movie is not interested in wonder
No.
or joy. There's some quips, pithy little quips, but none of them actually land, which frankly I missed in the movie because I associate Jurassic movies with a little bit of kind of banter and fun and adventure and frankly Chris Pratt actually does bring that.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
not particularly a fan of his, but I think he's very good at that sort of thing. So this movie had no humor or joy
Right.
whatsoever, which I think I miss.
Mm.
But as she's to go back to her, because this is a focus of the episode. I mean,
Right.
I agree, like her physicality and her steeliness and this person who's a mercenary and would do anything for money and all of that felt pretty believable. She just didn't have enough anything to do,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of that just has to do with the screenplay. I don't know why they have this other family which I wanted to be eaten from pretty early on, especially the children. I'm sorry. So it was a waste of time in my mind. I don't know why these people were there and they kept cutting between the two. They could have just kept it focused and just given more character time to these main people, the relationships between them. Clearly, Mahershala and Scarlett's characters, they know each other from the past. That would have been fun to explore. Oscar winning nominated actors, like use them, in your movie. So I don't know. It sort of felt like I kept asking myself the question, like, what happened here? Because the intention is there, the plot, though predictable, it's kind of an interesting idea. Okay, we're gonna go back, and
Yeah.
the world is over this, and the movie is well rendered. It looks good. You have a
Yeah.
good cast. I don't know, was these studio notes or something else fell apart? What happened? So I definitely snoozed during some parts of the movie because very quickly the beats became kind of predictable, right? Okay, the little girl with the little dinosaur or the teenager, they're going to get in trouble. And then a big explosion sort of things happens, and we get him back out of that, and then again they're in trouble. This happens like 5 times with different dinosaurs. That's the plot essentially for the entire movie. So I would snooze a little bit and just lean back in my chair when one of them was, making a stupid mistake or feeding, whatever red wines to the little thing and not looking. I'm like, how could you not look behind? Look behind. This is
Yeah,
why you should be eaten alive.
yeah. I mean, I agree with you that like the issue with this film really went down to the script, not like the premise I liked.
Yeah,
It was great. And actually, like I said, the direction, fantastic. Actors are there. It just, they didn't give these characters anything interesting to do. Though, actually, for me, just there's sort of like two groups of cast in this film. There's the mercenaries going to try to hunt down the dinosaur blood. And then there's this family that kind of gets roped into it by accident. And they meet in the beginning of the film, and then they get separated for the whole rest of the film. They don't meet till the end. And I'm sort of like, why have both of these threads if you're not going to intertwine them? They almost did feel like
it's
two separate
crazy.
movies. Or what could have been interesting was mix up the group a little bit. Like maybe
Yeah,
one of the kids is with a mercenary, and there's a mercenary
right.
with some of the like something to give more interesting character dynamics, because that was what to me was just lacking. Though I was actually each time they set up one of these scenes you mentioned of a dinosaur attack and then they rinse and repeat that. Each one of those scenes was so differently constructed and different
That I
not only
agree.
from each other, but from what we've seen in these films before. I mean, I don't know, you haven't seen a lot of them, but yeah, I've seen all the Jurassic Park films, and I love especially the first act of this film when they're on the water. It was really cool. A lot of the water dinosaurs and the boat related actions, both on the sailboat and then the
That was
mercenary
really good.
boat
Yeah.
too. And it sort of was reminding me a lot of Jaws in a way, like when
Mm.
she's trying to hunt and shoot the thing, and she's on
Hmm.
on the end of the the plank thing, trying to shoot it into the dinosaur, and they're all kind of like attacking the ship. Like that was kind of fun, like a sea adventure movie. Oh, this isn't not anything we've really seen in the
Right.
Jurassic Park films before. And again with the T-Rex scene too, and when they're in the water and the T-Rex is coming under the water trying to bite them, and like there was a lot of moments where I was like on the edge of my seat, being like, "Oh, whoa!" Like they're so close to getting killed, and so that the set pieces kept my interest, even though there wasn't really much character development at all. Like Scarlett Johansson's like, "I'm doing this for the money," and at the end she's like, "I don't need money. Let's just give
Give it
the
all
medical
up.
cure away to the world." And I'm sort of like, okay, I don't know why you have this change. There's no reason at all. And then there's something they're trying to do with Mahershala Ali, like he lost his kid, so that's why he tries to sacrifice himself at the end to save the kids. It's like I don't really care. Like I don't see why that's relevant to anything. But like I said, to me, the action set pieces were so interesting, and Gareth Edwards does such a good job with atmosphere, composition, and just making these things feel real. Like to me, this is the
Yeah,
best the dinosaurs have looked since the first film, or actually
they
since the
looked
second one too.
amazing. Of
Spielberg is very good about integrating the
course, yeah.
CGI, and all these dinosaurs felt real, but none of the other films really did until now. So I really do want to give a credence to Gareth Edwards for that. I think he did a great job with that piece of it.
Yeah, that I totally agree. And to be fair, the set pieces in themselves with the dinosaurs are amazing. It's just the lead up to them,
Yes,
you
yes,
know, and sort of the predictable arc of like, okay, this is happening, then it's sort of there's a lull, it goes down, then it comes back up. And this again goes back to the script. Like I
yeah.
wish they'd done something interesting with these people. So you actually cared, I don't care about these people at all in the movie.
Mhm.
So the stakes sort of go down. That said, because the character design, the set piece design is so good that your interest is kept alive. So kudos to them for that. But a missed opportunity in my mind. I think this movie could have been actually great. Because
Yeah,
in my mind, the harder part to do is all the stuff that is good in the movie,
right,
you would
right,
argue, right?
right,
I
right.
think not that any of this is easy. Like if people could just write, compelling characters and have great character dynamics and banter, all movies would be great. But I would think they could have done that. I mean, this is David Cap, this is a smart guy who's worked with Spielberg. The original movie had Black Bag this year with Soderbergh. So
Yeah.
clearly he understands character dynamics and character depth, right? So I don't know what happened over here.
Yeah, it is interesting, and actually, your point around like looking good, but the story being lacking is a criticism I even had of the last Gareth Edwards film, Creator, which I did like.
Right.
but it visually looked great, but there were some things on the story that just were not quite there like perfectly. So I wonder
Maybe
if this is
that's his
just
thing.
Garrick Edwards not spending enough time on the story and jumping too much into how it's going to be constructed, how it's going to look, which he's very, very good at.
Right.
But he needs, I think, someone a little more stronger. And again, David Koepp is a great screenwriter, so I don't exactly know, what happened here, unless maybe he just kind of
Overruled it or
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Yeah. Or Cap just sort of like, okay, I'll do some quick, here's some ideas, and you can kind of fill in the gaps, and they didn't fill in the gaps at all. And they're like, well, let's just film, what this the basic kind of like broad brush ideas here. Because again, I do think the ideas are very interesting in this film, more so than the last Jurassic World films, where the first one was like, oh, let's just remake Jurassic Park and create the
Right.
park again and see what happens. And then cloning in the second one, and then the third one was about like locusts or something. It was bad. So this seems to be a
Oh.
good like creative reset, and I'm
Yeah.
curious to see what they'll do next after this because it was very much a standalone film too, which I appreciate as well. Like I don't really see a need to go back to any of these characters because I
No.
wasn't have no affinity for them at all. But if they can take the same kind of tact of making just a kind of monster movie horror film with dinosaurs, I mean, I would see another one for sure of these.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, clearly those vials with the stuff from the DNA or blood samples, they're there, right?
Right.
So they can clearly do something with it. Spoiler alert. You haven't seen
Yeah.
the movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if that's so much of a spoiler. They'll probably make another one of these. They keep, I think they'll make these till the end of time. This seems like a big hit. I mean, audience was packed. That when I
Oh,
when I saw
really?
this huge packed house. Kids of all ages in the film. Everyone in dinosaur gear and stuff, like shirts and things, and people seem to be really into the movie. Like clapping at certain parts, and this wasn't like an opening night show. It
Hmm.
was or it like the big Chinese theater sort of big
Right.
thing where you get all the dinosaur fans at. Like I normally go to it wasn't in one of those theaters, so it seems like it's connecting with audiences, or at least at the box office it is. So I'm sure they'll make another one. They'll
I'm
keep
sure
making
they
these
will.
forever.
Oh, definitely. But yeah, with ScarJo, yeah, I agree with the physicality and everything, but I think she doesn't have much to do. And
Right.
also, now I'm thinking back at it, I feel like she's almost, this is what she's been doing for a lot of the action movies that I associate her with. So it almost felt like she just, not that this is easy to do because there's a lot of stunt work and what have you involved, but it just felt like she's just kind of sleepwalked through this movie because there
Yeah.
isn't
There's just nothing
anything to
there.
sort of dive into, you know? And
Right.
she sounds like herself, looks like herself entirely. And I'm not expecting a transformation of any kind, but
Right.
at least some level of character depth or beat. So I don't know. Scarjo, I believe in you. You have the power to whip these people up in shape. And, yeah, maybe she didn't question it because they gave her good money. So that's,
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think she looks better than she's ever, honestly, better than she's ever
she
looked
looks
in
great.
before. I just maybe it's the way that Gareth Edwards shoots her or something. I don't know, but she looks incredible for yeah for this role, but then also believable, like I said, that she could be
Yeah.
doing all these things because she has to be like a mercenary expert out in the jungle, and she blends into that perfectly. So yeah, overall, I would recommend this film, especially just as don't go in thinking this is going to be like the same as the first movie or some groundbreaking film. But for a summer sort of popcorn film, I think they put a lot of thought and care into this, and it looks expensive, looks like they're trying here. And yeah, it's not the best movie ever, but I would definitely recommend it. Sounds like you're a little more mixed on it.
I'm more mixed. Although talking about it and just thinking about the set pieces and how the movie looked and the world that they built, I think I feel a little bit more positive. So I might even add like an extra half star
Okay,
to my
whoa,
rating.
whoa. You're so generous, Karan. Okay, well, that was Scarlett Johansson's latest film, and now we'll dive into the rest of the episode where we get more into her whole filmography. And what we're gonna do for new listeners is get into our top threes. So these are the top three films for Scarlett Johansson that we want to talk about. The first film we're gonna talk is Our First Love. This is the movie that made the biggest impact on us and made us fall in love with Scarlett Johansson, at least one of us potentially. Then Masterpiece. This is the movie that resonates us the most with what Scarlett Johansson did. Then finally, The Wild Card. This is just another movie that maybe Scarlett took a chance on something and it didn't work out. Maybe she took a chance that it did work out, doing something outside of her comfort zone, or just a movie that Scarlett Johansson's in that doesn't get talked about as much as one of us might want. So with that, Karan, why don't you kick us off in terms of first loves? What is your first love of Miss Scarlett Johansson?
All right, so my first love of ScarJo is Vicky, Cristina, Barcelona from 2008, directed by Woody Allen, starring Scarlett Johansson, Rebecca Hall, Javier Bardem, Penelope Cruz. Uh, Pretty amazing cast. Quick log line. Two friends on a summer holiday in Spain become enamored with the same painter, unaware that his ex-wife, with whom he has a tempestuous relationship, is about to return into the picture. Okay, so I watched this movie kind of when it came out, and this is the time when Woody Allen was a little bit of a late career high,
Hmm.
kind of that he was in. So with, Midnight in Paris, and then this one, and then a couple of other movies that were doing well, they were critically appreciated, and Woody Allen was sort of not in the total doghouse the way he
Right.
soon was right after some of these movies. I guess Blue Jasmine is in that period as well. And I'm pretty sure I'd seen Scarlett in something before. I had not seen Lost in Translation until much
Mm.
later in my life. Of course, I
Okay.
knew of her, but I think what I was referencing earlier about this kind of alluring, mysterious, very sexy, sexual sort of person, that persona to me is really personified with this movie. The way she is introduced to us, the way she looks, and I think she's great in this movie, in my mind, from just to talk about her and then we can talk about the movie.
Yeah.
I think her character is very specific. Somebody who's smart and intelligent, but is sort of trying to grasp at something more of what life could be, but doesn't know what that is. She believes in love. She has sort of these fantastical ideas of, having a European holiday and meeting somebody, who's exciting, or being in the world of art, surrounded by arty people who write poetry or paint or what have you. So she's sort of on this quest and journey to find all of that deeper thing, but is not particularly good at any of it, but also doesn't know what she wants. And I think that's such a interesting character. We don't see a character like this because usually a character like this would be very annoying or ditzy or
Right.
just not smart. And she's none of those. She's actually smart. You do want to hang out with her, but and she obviously looks like Scarlett Johansson, so there's that. But there's something is just not adding up. I think she communicates that feeling of desire and longing and loneliness and confusion, but not desperation. She still has her own, she's in control. Like when she's being allured by Javier Bardem, like she makes the choice to take the trip or entertain the prospect of kind of being with him. So she is in control, even though she doesn't know what she wants. So I think
Right.
she communicates all of that so well. You can't take your eyes off her. And I just love the dynamic that she has with Rebecca Hall's character, who's her friend, with Javier Bardem, and especially when Penelope Cruz enters, like stirs up the whole pot. And finally, Scarlett Johansson's character starts to find something about her and what she might want. And so, yeah, I think it's one of her signature performances. I associate her with this role even till today, and we'll talk about the movie in a second. But yeah, what did you think of her in this movie?
Yeah, so this is the first time me seeing the film, which again we'll talk about in a bit. But I definitely agree that she was interesting in this film, and that like she's doing the things that she normally does, right? Of someone who is sultry, but you don't really know exactly like her background. She's got that air of mystery about her, but she captures this sense of being a free spirit, but it almost feels like she's not happy with being a free spirit. Like she's looking for something. And normally in movies, like these free spirit characters are they could care less about anything, and that they're happy to not have any cares in the world. And here she has no cares in the world, but like there's something missing. There's this melancholy that she's able to weave into this character that with another actress or maybe just with another character would, to your point, be more like the dumb blonde, silly.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm gonna be off and be with this artist in Spain, whatever, who cares? Whereas for sure she's like looking for something, and then she thinks she finds it, and then she regrets or not regrets necessarily, but it's like maybe this isn't what I want. So there's sort of more meat to the bones of this character than normally I think there would be in a movie like this. She might be just relegated more to like a comic relief character or something. So I think it's difficult to pull off this like walk between this
Hmm.
immaturity that she has, but also there is like enough of a worldliness of her trying all these new experiences and again, still not being satisfied, but she doesn't know
Right.
what she wants. And there's that confusion that honestly never even gets resolved in the film. It's not like there's any kind of arc to her character where she makes some discovery and all of a sudden now she's going to be doing something different or making other choices. It just sort of she just happens. All these characters kind of like just live through the movie and then the movie's over. So I think it's really impressive what she's able to do in this. And yeah, I think the chemistry is there too between all the characters in this, with between her and Javier Bardem and Rico Hall and Penelope Cruz as well. So I think she does a great job in the ensemble too.
Yeah. And I think also there's like a intelligence to her character in terms of like when she's trying things and if they don't work, she's very quick to grasp that as well, you
Right,
know, when she sort of
right,
feels that, oh, I'm out of place here in this kind of arty world, you know, or I don't speak the language, or I'm not as good, or so I think that, yeah, the melancholy is a good word too. You know, with that awareness comes melancholy of like,
right.
oh, I'm none of these things, you know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun to see her do that. But as a movie, yeah, this is, you know, I mean, it's not the early stage Woody Allen movie, but in the later stage, I think this is, I think, a very well done movie. All the way from the world it creates. You know, I've never been to Spain. I would love to go,
Mm,
but my association with Spain, and maybe it's totally fabricated, but this is what I think of when I think of Spain. Kind of these kind of orangey, yellow, brown colors, beautifully shot.
hmm.
There's this sense of kind of longing, melancholy through the Spanish guitar music, but also this kind of sexy sultriness that, you know, anything can happen, kind of feel that they're able to conjure in this whole movie. And then I just love the character dynamics, you know, starting with the two girls who are very different from each other. Scarjo, as we've talked about, is sort of more dreamy, searching for stuff. Rebecca's character seems to be more in control. She is maybe a little bit more conservative and sort of has her life figured out. She has Messina that she's engaged with, and life is going to be good. And she's sort of the sensible, smart one. And they're here in Spain, kind of on this vacation, and then all starts to unfold. You know, the more in control, sensible, smart one starts to unravel. Meanwhile, Scarlett Johansson character, who's free spirited and wants to try anything, starts to question, is that really what I want?
Right,
And I love the two parallel stories of how they progress, and in the center of it is this real life couple, and also in the movie couple of Bardem and Penelope Cruz, who I don't think I'd ever seen them before I watched this movie,
oh,
and
okay.
at least not that I can remember. And they just completely take over the movie in the best possible way, where you love what they are doing, but you're almost more interested in how they are landing on the other people around them, because they are such a kind of stirry pot, you know, tempestuous, as the logline says, you know, couple, that they can't be with each other, but they also can't be without each other. Especially Penelope's character is just so unhinged and so wild. But you also kind of be on the borderline of a caricature of sort.
Hmm.
They still make it real in my mind, you know, and also they're so entertaining to watch. You know, there's like this sense of mystery and sexiness to them, and how they, you know, and it's almost like this fantasy of, especially I guess Americans, or if you're not European, to be there and want to have this life, and you kind of get to taste it, and you start to realize that, oh, actually I don't want any of this. It's too much, you know,
Right.
it's too much. So I love how all that is handled. The movie gets a little cartoony, I think, towards the end with the gunshot, and it's sort of very, you know, French modern movie, which I know Woody is often inspired by. So it kind of becomes a little bit silly, but I still enjoy it, whatever is happening. And I think the performances are absolutely A plus across the board. You believe in everything. You want to be with these people. You want to be in this world. And the last thing I would say is that the movie does a good job in portraying different relationship dynamics. You know, there is Patricia, what's her last name? Theater
Clarkson,
actress.
Patricia
Yeah.
Clarkson. Yeah.
It's her character who's been in France for a long time and is having an affair and is sort of in this unhappy relationship. Meanwhile, you see Javier and Penelope Cruz, that they are unhappy, even though they have this art and connection and what have you. And then someone like Rebecca Hall, who has the more on paper good life, but there's something missing there as well. And then the Scarlett Johansson character, who I would think when I first watched the movie, I would associate myself more with her character of like, oh, I want
Oh.
something more in life. I want something exciting and dreamy and this and that. And that doesn't pan out either. So I like that, these different points of views on relationships and what we are looking for are shown in the movie without tying a bow on them. It's left on you to kind of figure out, do you want to be like any of these people? Do you want none of it? Do you want maybe a little bit of something from each of these people? And kind of that's the one bit that comes out of the movie, is that Javier and Penelope almost need Scarlett to make their
Relationship
relationship
work.
work,
Yeah. Yeah.
and though it's done in kind of like a cheeky, sexy kind of way, but I think to me what it means is not like, oh, join a throuple, but it's more like sometimes you need something from the outside to ground your relationship, and that could be anything. It could be a person, it could be a passion, it could be a trip or an exploration or something. So yeah, I think this movie is a fun romp, but it also has ideas on its mind that you can wrestle with if you want to, which is true for a lot of good Woody Allen movies. And it's also good that he's not in it. So you don't get to see him or hear his voice, which would not be right for a movie like this. So that's my thoughts on her and the movie. What did you think of the movie?
Yeah, so like I said, I hadn't seen the movie before, and like longtime listeners know, and we have a whole episode actually on Woody Allen.
Right.
I'm not a Woody Allen fan. I actively avoid his films, and this is one that at some point I knew I was probably gonna end up watching just because is like you said in this late period renaissance that he had
Right.
around about 20 years ago. This was the sort of the last film that I hadn't seen that people had talked about. Like we talked about Match Point in an episode that I hadn't seen before, so I'm starting to fill the gap. So I had a little bit of a high expectations for some reason going into this because I heard so many good things about it, and I just like didn't really work for me much at all. It looked great. So on the positive side, it really did look great. I mean, I've been to Spain. It sort of captured enough of the essence of that. I think Woody Allen in these films does a very good job of making the locations feel real and capturing the essence of it, whether it's New York, like most of his films are set, but even like we mentioned in Match Point, it really did feel, like London and Blue Jasmine, San Francisco, and I think this movie does a very good job of capturing, the essence of Spain, and I think the cast is like top notch, folks, like really good looking, very great actors, and in the beginning I was sort of a little bought into it. But honestly, like it just the characters became too tiresome over the course
Mm,
of the film. Like I just didn't want to spend time with these people anymore. I just like, okay, I get it. Like you said, like these are all the different relationships, but because nothing's really happening to them or to the characters or to those dynamics of relationships, I kind of got like sort of, yeah, like, okay, I'm done. Like just at least have something happen or end, and the movie just ends. And I was like, wait a second, did I like miss something? I had to rewind it, and I was like, no, I guess that is the end of the movie. And the end of it was a little unsatisfying because I did want something tied up in some kind of bow. So
yeah,
it's
you
sort of like
like
left.
Buzz.
I love bows, and at least give me one bow. Give me a small bow. I don't need like a giant red, on a freaking new Lexus on New Year's Eve bow. I just want like something, a little bit like a barrette in the hair. So that kind of left me cold. And the narration, I didn't understand why that was there, and it
Mm,
was distractingly odd to me. I don't know, like it's cheapened the movie in a way, like it almost distances yourself from the characters, which maybe was the point.
yeah.
And a lot of times it was saying things that were either very obvious or didn't need to be said because the characters were already saying it. It was very odd. Like it kind of that was a creative choice that I didn't necessarily understand. So I didn't dislike the movie, but it was definitely disappointing from what I thought it was. Like, going into Match Point, I sort of had a little high expectations too. It actually exceeded them. And people can go back. I'll put maybe the link below to our Woody Allen episode. I think it's pretty interesting, our discussion we have there. But yeah, this one for me was a miss.
Yeah, I thought so because yeah, I think this is very classic Woody, right? Like things are not tied in a bow. They're
Yeah,
very much a slice of someone's life, and you get to kind of come in, and then nothing is resolved, but pots get stirred, and
right,
then you are sort of left in the wake of that, imagining and thinking about what happens. And so either you are in the bag for that or you're not. And
which I'm
that
not.
this is
Yeah,
not you like a bow, you like an arc, you like sort of
something.
something
Yeah,
change or happen.
right,
I like the ambiguity of it. Like, what happens? Like, does Rebecca Hall go back and get married to the guy that she was supposed to after this whole thing? And is she happy? Does Scarlett change her life entirely after this experience? And I love that. I love that sort of ambiguity that nothing is said out loud. Or maybe they just forget that this even happened, and
right.
just go about their lives. So
Yeah,
I love that unexpectedness. And it's sort of true to life in my mind, even though it's a movie and it's fantastical and, silly at times, but that's what happens, I guess. You go on a trip and you take away something from it, and maybe it means nothing, or maybe it changes you in a very small way or in a huge way, you just don't know. So
right.
I love that aspect of it.
Yeah, I will say too that usually I come into these films, especially when the older Woody Allen films, when he's in the movie,
Mm,
which I don't, I just his persona can get very grating to me, and I
yeah,
don't like when he's in the film. And then even if he's not in the film, they'll give people an actor, usually a man, actually always a man, basically the Woody Allen surrogate character, where
right,
he's talking like Woody, he's acting like Woody, he basically is Woody, but Woody wouldn't put him on the movie. And this I found was very interesting because there was no Woody Allen character at all, though. I felt Javier Bardem, it almost felt like Woody was writing the exact opposite of someone who he is. Like in the
right.
same way of like women in Woody Allen movies are always tripping over themselves to be with Woody Allen for some reason. And this movie, Javier Bardem is that character. Everyone's trying to get with him, but he's like interesting and sexy and smooth, things that Woody Allen is not. Woody Allen's characters and his surrogates are very intellectual. Like they talk about all
Hmm.
these very intellectual ideas and
And they're
pontificate all these
neurotic.
things. Right, neurotic. Whereas Javier Bardem's character is artistic, which is the exact opposite of usually what
Totally.
Woody.
And he feels everything,
Exactly.
to, yeah.
Right, which is so it's in a weird way I wonder because I was trying to psychoanalyze Woody in all the in these films. It's like he's writing what he wants, like he wishes he could be this as a man. So like all the he's still getting the same like love from women right and left, which he always does in these movies, but it's like all of his characteristics that I would associate with a Woody Allen surrogate character are like flipped. And I thought Javier Bardem just, is
It's
incredibly attractive,
amazing.
unlike Woody Allen, incredibly smooth and interesting. Like I'd want to hang out with this guy. The character was very cool. And
So
usually in Woody
cool.
Allen movies, I want to punch the character Woody Allen in the face. So it's
Right.
it's like I thought that was interesting that he was expressing something or trying to go through something where he didn't want to have any version of himself in this film, which, I don't know what was going on at the time with him when he made it, but I thought that was interesting. There was no Woody Allen surrogate character in the film, which was refreshing. So I want to give the movie credit for that. And Javier Bardem did look amazing in this
He
in this
looks
film. And
great.
I mean, all everyone does. Like
Everyone does. Everyone is
just looking
lit
great.
beautifully, and
Yeah.
it's just so intentional, right? I mean, this is you can tell that people making this movie, they know what they want and they
Right.
got it, and
Right.
I love that. It doesn't happen in the movies very often.
That's true.
I think that thing about, yeah, maybe it's a conscious choice of writing a character that's an opposite to him, but I also think with these movies that he did outside of New York, he's very interested in capturing the essence of those places. And I
Hmm.
think Penelope and Javier, I think they represent what Woody sees Spain to be,
Hmm.
sort of sexy, mysterious, a little bit unhinged, feeling everything deeply, suave, smooth, but also very chaotic. And
Right.
also,
Right.
where's your life going? You're literally almost killing each other. So I think to me, that's probably what the driving force of a lot of these movies is, that, okay. And that's so great, I think, right? Like often people set a movie in a different place that's not their own, but it's just like a, passport stamp.
Right. Right.
Versus these movies are really internally, inside out, thought about what this place means. And it might be a caricature. I've never talked to a Spaniard about this movie. I'd be very curious to hear what they think, but I like it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like the movies don't feel like travel logs in the sense of like a
Yeah.
Bond film or something. They feel like they're capturing the feeling of what it's like to be there and what the culture feels like, at
Right.
least to Woody Allen. But I do give him credit for that. I think all these movies that he takes place outside of New York do a very good job of other than Los Angeles, which I think he hates and tries to disparage at every turn. But other than that city, I think he does a very good job of capturing what makes these different parts of the world unique and the people that live in them, unique. But so I'm glad I finally ticked this off. And now I think I've completed my Woody Allen bingo card now, thanks to you and this podcast. And yeah, people can listen to the Woody Allen episode to get my full thoughts on how my opinions changed a little bit since we started this journey. But I'm glad to finally, have seen this movie and say it's not for me. I don't think I'd watch it again.
All right. What's your first love, ScarJo?
So my first love of Scarlett Johansson is a film we covered in a previous episode on friendship. It is Ghost World from 2001. This movie, IMDb plot summary: two eccentric best friends graduate high school and respond to a man's romance-seeking newspaper ad as a gag, only to find their lives becoming increasingly complicated. This movie is directed by Terry Zigoff, also co-written by him, and based on a comic by Daniel Clowes, starring Steve Buscemi, Thora Birch, and Scarlett Johansson. So I'll talk a lot about the Scarlet piece because we already covered most of the movie
Right.
previously. But yeah, for me, this was the one that cemented sort of my crush on Scarlett Johansson. I mean, everything in terms of this character is sort of what makes me interested in her and think capture her sort of on-screen persona well. Where she basically goes to this movie. She's the best friend, so she's not the main character of the main character Enid, but she goes to this movie like starting out like very she is very deadpan delivery, very humorous. She's got like this resting bitch face as they say it throughout this film, but has like a little bit of an attitude, which I think is cool, especially in the beginning. Like her character changes a lot throughout the film.
Hmm.
So in the beginning of the film, like her and her best friend from high school, they like being little. I get even in the movie they call them little badasses or something. They're kind of not mainstream. They hate on the popular kids. They like doing these sort of alternative things around town. And in the beginning of the movie, Scarlett Johansson is like this too, where she is suggesting that they follow some Satanists around, and then she's the one actually in terms of gets the plot going and says they read this Lonely Hearts ad in the newspaper. Oh, I
Hmm.
ran into you, misconnections thing, and she's the one who prompts. Oh, we should like call this guy and like prank call him. So like she is this very teenage kind of little badass in the beginning of the movie with this attitude, and then over the course of the film, she realizes, well, to go into the real world, you have to maybe like tone things down a little bit. And that arc I think is really interesting that she goes on through this film, which you don't really, again, she's not on screen a lot towards the second half of the film, and because a lot of the acting is not in her like facial expressions, because she is very deadpan, it's through her actions and especially like her line deliveries across over
Hmm.
the course of this film, where she just is sort of realizing like, well, to live an adult life, you do have to fit in some way and sort of like normalize yourself. Whereas Enid, her best friend, is the exact opposite. She ends up sort of leaving the normal world because she can't fit in and be conformed. So I think all the essential Scarlett Johansson things that attracted me to her in the first place, and I think is one of her signature, attitudes throughout her most of her career, is right in this role. And I just think she's so funny in it too. I think the humor is something she doesn't get to do very often, though she was very funny in the movie we just talked about too, Vicky, Cristina, Barcelona. But I think she's good at comedy, and this the deadpan delivery and her little attitudes in this movie I think are very funny. So before we get more into the film,
Yeah.
yeah, focus on Scarlett. I think you had this might be the second time you've seen the movie. Did you watch it the first time for the podcast? Yeah. So
Yep.
what are your thoughts now, focusing more on Scarlett in this? Can you see why I was so into her?
Yeah, I can totally see. No, I can totally see. And yeah, I think this persona that we're talking about of her, of kind of alluring but steely, intelligent but also mysterious but very deadpan, like it's all there. And it's sort of it was impressive to see it this time that oh this was formed so early in her
Mhm.
career, and then she's kind of built on top of that, capitalized that in different ways, and different directors have got one aspect of that and kind of blown it up a little bit further. So it's kind of essential text, I think, in her career and just her as a actress, performer, and maybe even a person. I mean, this seems like a very foundational movie for her, and she's great, obviously. And I kept thinking that in many ways I would now associate the Thora Birch character to be played by Scarlett Johansson as well, because she
Huh.
is sort of the one who follows her own and doesn't want to give up, which is sort of what I associate ScarJo to be now, just as a performer, but also like we were saying in her off-screen life, like she
Yeah,
feels very single-minded. So that was sort of an interesting thing that I
interesting.
was thinking about. But yeah, she's great she grounds the movie. She's sort of the as deadpan as she is the emotional heart of the movie. And so it was really great to just see her again, in this light. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. I definitely can see that, like her taking more of the Enid path too, especially now, like later on in her career. So yeah, about the film, this is just one of my favorite movies. I think it's not only really funny, but it just talks about a lot of things that again I like related to a lot at the time when I first saw it in theaters back in 2001. And there is this sort of question of how much do you keep to yourself versus give up to try to fit in or just be like quote unquote normal in quote unquote like normal society? And do you want to? Like, is that even alluring or something? And I think that's where the Enid and Scarlett Johansson's character too get take different paths, and it's just interesting to see like that friendship gets strayed, and basically like they kind of they're still friends sort of at the end, I guess, but not really.
Hmm.
I mean, Enid goes on a totally different path because she cannot give up her own identity to fit in, and then you get the Steve Buscemi character that is going through the same thing. Like he is sort of
Right.
fine to have his little nerdy hobbies of the records and not get out there in the world or try to like relate to quote unquote like normal people. He's kind of okay with that, and then ends up I guess being happy or maybe not. I don't know. It's like the normal life he seems to be enjoying for a while until Enid
Right.
kind of ruins it. Because I think she just can't fit in and is mad when people are starting to like that normal suburban, American lifestyle that, Scarlett Johansson ends up liking towards the end of the film. And I don't know. I still wrestle with these things myself a lot, and I think it has a lot of interesting things to say in a movie that is also just incredibly funny. I find the movie just hilarious. I don't know. What is your thoughts on the second viewing?
Yeah, it grew on me more. I might actually would have to change my rating on the movie because I think this happens to me a lot when I watch movies from that sort of time period, like 90s and early 2000s, just so it feels so specific and trapped
Yeah,
in that time that watching it from a today's lens can be a bit jarring. And it's not the ideas actually, but more so the way the movie is mounted and the way things happen, because you have to almost do like a time traveling act of being, your younger self in that time period. So it takes me a couple of watches, unless there are exceptions to that rule, of course. I mean, there's some movies that are just undeniable and they hit you no matter where you're at. And this
right,
felt very specific of the time and the age group that these people are in. And so, yeah, if you've grown up with it, they mature with you. Versus if you're coming to them late in life, they feel like, oh, what is this?
right,
So
right,
I definitely had that. And now that I think about it more, just watching it the second time, like, yeah, I mean, these ideas are very heady actually, of, people growing apart, especially at that young age. You actually don't even know what you want. And at some point, it's almost the performance of authenticity or the performance of, oh, this must be cool or this must be great. I have to be the one who hates all suburbia or hates all of this. Do you actually though, or no? Or
right.
you just read this or you've just made this a thing and now it's too late to back out because people are going to judge you and they're going to say you're silly, that you're giving up on all your beliefs. So it's really tapping into that, and it's not, it doesn't say it over the top. It's pretty subtle in these messages, even though the movie is so specific, the world is built so specifically with all these different people. And so yeah, the movie is very rich, and I think these questions that it has on its mind, they'll never get old. I feel like this is it's very human, right? To be born in something and then question it to the point that you just start hating it, and
Right.
then you've forgotten why you hate it. It's too late, Or the other side to it is that you don't even question it and you just like it, and then before you know, it's too late that you're actually in love with it, but it's hard to change it. So
Right.
both are true, and the middle is also true.
Right. These are questions that I think most people grapple with at that sort of time in their lives. And this movie is based on a comic, and I think it does a brilliant job of capturing sort of the comic. But this movie, especially to me, and the comic too, which I do like and read after the film, feels much more like a modern day version of Catcher in the Rye. I don't know if you've read that book. It was
Mm,
something in the US, like you kind of had to read it in high school. I
hmm.
never liked the book. I thought it sucked, and Holden Caulfield, the main character, I found very annoying. But Enid to me is the Holden Caulfield that I understand, I guess. It really does feel like the a Catcher in the Rye for at least for me, it hit spoke to me a lot more about the same things that that book is dealing with. To a way that to me was more relatable, and I understand and care about the characters of Eden especially versus like the Holden Caulfield character in that book. I always found like really really annoying. For something with Eden, I feel like there's some sort of truth to that, and you do feel bad for her. Like I
Yeah.
think it's you can still live in a world that you don't have. I don't think you do have to conform, and I think she was under this impression that you did and pushed back on it so much that then she just has to leave society basically. But I think I don't think you have to either leave or conform. There is that middle ground. But at that age, I think you sort of are, you do feel like everything is those two choices. Either you have to be alt or you have to be mainstream. You can't be alt in a mainstream world, which you definitely can. But, when you're 17, 16, 15, 18, whatever, that you do think it's a binary choice. I think this movie does a great job, at least for me, of bringing back a lot of those thoughts and those feelings that I had around that time too for myself. So I recommend people watch this film. It's one of my favorites of all time, definitely. Fun
Yeah.
to go back to it.
And it'll always be topical, but I think it feels even more topical now, where I think this feeling of you're your identity, stick to it. Like it's just so, in my opinion, just exploited,
Right.
that it's made it even harder for people to sort of feel that, oh, I can be in the mainstream world and yet be alt or have my passions or thoughts, like exploited to the point where people have altered everything, from the inside out to the outside in at such a young age, which can be, in my mind, quite harmful. And,
Hmm.
and then what happens to you, and what you lose is love, kindness, the thing that actually matter because you're
Right.
so stuck in your head. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's what influencer culture is, taken to one extreme. That's what, yeah, the entire existence of our media and people young and even older, just fighting for their identity and just sort of missing the point in a sad way in my mind.
Yeah.
Because so this movie is very prescient actually. I hope it's a cautionary tale,
Yeah, what I
in
think
my
the interesting thing
opinion.
about this film and also the comic too is in a story like this, it very easily could have made Enid into like a hero who is doing all these things and she triumphs or you feel like happy for her, but it's a very sad ending. Like you do
Yeah,
feel for her, like you want her to find happiness, but it's not like a satisfying conclusion where okay, now she's, the leader of I don't know the alt community or something, whatever it is. Like there is something missing. And the Scarlett Johansson character, you sort of feel like okay, she's finding her ground, she's gonna be okay. She's gonna find her happiness. Whereas
right.
Enid, you kind of don't. I do like that the movie very easily could have done the other thing, which is showed her to be some hero and someone to follow and to identify with, and a rallying cry for like the people who feel like they don't fit in. And it's not making fun of those people either. I mean, I don't think you should be
Yeah.
say no, you must conform. But
No.
it shows that there's this, again, I'll use the word melancholy again in this Enid character, and the movie I think treats it very maturely, that whole arc of hers, and it's a sad ending. Honestly, it's not something
A
that's
sad
happy or
ending.
triumphant at all. When she
No.
gets in
And
that bus
there's
and goes away.
Totally. And there's mental health stuff in there too, which it doesn't really harp on a little bit, but it kind of leaves you thinking about that, like
Yeah,
this person actually needs help.
right, right.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, on that sad note, let's move on to our masterpieces. So this is what we think is the best personification of Scarlett Johansson to us. And Ron, you're up first. What do we got here?
Okay, so my masterpiece is Asteroid City from 2023. So we are staying in the West World, which we
Yes.
covered in our last episode. So yeah, directed by Wes Anderson, starring Jason Schwartzman, Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks, giant cast, Adrian Brody, Margot Robbie. I can keep going. Quick logline: world-changing events spectacularly disrupt the annual Asteroid Day celebration in an American desert town. That's actually not the true
That's
story of
that's
the
the
movie.
plot of it.
That's
It's
the
not
plot
the
of the plot.
of the plot. Right, right, exactly. Yeah. This is a Russian doll film. Another one of those. Yeah.
Another one of those. So yeah, we'll talk about the movie in a second, but yeah, when I watched the movie when it came out, and I think I was kind of blown away by Scarlett Johansson's performance in this movie. There are a few of these movies that I was referencing earlier where she has come and just like surprised me that, oh, I
Mhm.
didn't know that you were capable of this. And I think just through this conversation, what we've been saying about her, like there's one side of the spectrum which is alluring and sexy, but some mystery to it. And the other side is like really deadpan, serious, grounded, but there's almost like a sadness to it. Yet the mystery is kept alive. And I think this character, where she's playing an actress, and you see the performance of the person who's the actress, but also the actress performing in this play or this movie, which is the bulk of the movie, if you will. I think there's something so sad and kind of melancholic and steely at the same time about it, and also feels very period appropriate. Like she feels like a 50s
Mhm.
movie star, not just the way she looks and the way she's kind of put together, but just like in her being. Like this is, even though it's like a Wes Anderson movie with like so many dioramas and so many people flooding in and out, this character to me feels totally fleshed out. It feels like a real person when she's in the movie, but also when she's just playing the actress. So I was blown away by, I think that's why this is her masterpiece to me. And she makes something so much out of something little, not because of Wes, but just as how his movies are,
Right.
that says a lot about her as an actress, as a performer. I think her chemistry with Jason Schwartzman is incredible, even though they are literally trapped in boxes looking at each other through windows throughout the
Yeah.
entire performance of theirs, and that says a lot about who the people are, what the movie is all about. So yeah, I just loved her in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this movie, her performance in it is again like a lot of the things she does well, right? Like the actor that she's playing an actress who's then playing a character in
Yes.
Asteroid City, the play, which is actually the movie. So I just want to make sure I'm talking about the right the her character in the play who is an actress. Actually, she's an actress playing an actress playing an actress. Anyway, yes, this movie star character is very much the classic, Scarlett Johansson, like you said, sort of this more colder, kind of distant actress who's has some pain that she's sort of hiding, but she's desired by everyone, not only just the men in the film, but also the kids are looking up to her too.
Right.
Like one of the girls in the Girl Scout troop is like, "Oh, you're my favorite. I love all the movies
Right.
things you did." But yet then the actress that she's the stage play actress guy, I gotta have a different
Right.
way to say it. The black and white portion, right?
Right.
That character you can tell also is cannot express herself either, but only it's like through her acting is she able to tap into any kind of emotion, which I also thought was interesting, not only in the theme of the film in some way, but again, like maybe Scarlett speaks to Scarlett Johansson too. Like again, I don't know what she's like in her real life, and maybe her acting is sort of parallels how she deals with emotions too. So I do think this is a small part in the film, but a crucial not only part in the movie, but a very strong performance by her because she's doing all these different things. I mean, it's not easy
Hmm.
to play an actress who's then playing a character who's also an actress. There's a lot actually going on here. So I think she does a very good job of communicating that she's still feeling on the inside, even though she can't express it in either one of these characters that she's playing.
Right. Which, like we said in our Woody episode, if not Woody, sorry, Wes episode, if people want to listen to it, that this is a very prototypical Wes character, right? Somebody
Right.
who's deep thinking, deep feeling, but is unable to express through words what they actually are feeling. And that's true for a lot of his character. I think she like is nails it, I think. And this, the last thing I say before we talk about the movie is that there's
Yeah.
something of like a hardened woman quality to this character. Somebody who's been around, seen life, maybe she was a child actress. She's been doing this for a long time, and though she's accomplished and knows how to work the world, knows maybe even what she wants, but there's like a lost innocence or lost childhood or something that's, she's sort of hardened before her age, if you will. And I think she plays that really well. And I've seen her do that now in a bunch of movies, especially when she maybe in this phase of her career, which is kind of interesting. And of course the physicality in her voice lends itself to that, right? Like Scarlett Johansson is known for her raspy, singular voice, which
Right.
in her earlier career was sort of this sexual, sexy kind of thing. And then there's a pivot point, which a movie that we'll cover later, where it's all about the voice. And then from there on out, I think now this voice just feels kind of matured, I call it the cigarette voice. Somebody who's
Yes,
been
yes.
smoking a lot and seen the world, has been through stuff, that sort of thing. And so I love that kind of hardened quality of this character that she brings.
Yeah, me too. And the way that Wes portrays that too, and in the actress in the color portion of the film,
Right,
where there's an early scene like she takes off her sunglasses, she has like a black eye, and someone's like, "Oh
right,
no, like is that you know?" It's sort of implied like she's been through something that's been really hard for her, and she's like, "Oh no, this is just makeup." But actually, I think it is. That's a way that I interpret it as no, she has been through a lot of hard stuff, but she can only express it in a fake way through this acting because she
right.
can't actually deal with her own pain that this character in that version of the stage play or the color version is dealing with. So I think that is yeah, you sort of can get that she's otherworldly without showing the things that she's been through because it's all through the acting. And even the black eye ends up being like a fake way to communicate her experiences, even though you know she's had them. And she kind of gets into it a little bit later on in some other scenes. But I just like that way of personifying her character through this action of a fake
Totally.
black eye.
Totally. And it feels very period appropriate too, right? Like these are
Yes.
people from that time and at that time even more so, like expressing emotions in a big way, especially if you're a working woman, if you're an actress, like even more so, right? So it's very well thought through, which I expect from Wes, of course. But yeah, to talk about the movie, I think this is, I might have hinted at it, but this is my like current period West masterpiece, if you will.
Mm.
Because yes, it has a lot going on in terms of the Russian doll structure, but I think here it feels earned to me of what they're trying to say. And of course, like all West movies, you can get lost in the production design, this very specific kind of desert community, all these different characters and the Russian dollness of it. But at the end of it, the movie is about grief. It's about growing older. And I think Wes is exploring some really deep things about his own life and as he gets older, has children and such. So, yeah, I love that. There's just so much exploration and like we said in the last episode, like a lot of these West movies, the gift keeps giving. I think this is a classic example of that. The more times you watch it, the more things you will discover. And then just the world of, which again, Wes is brilliant at it, but like this one just feels even richer to me. There's something about the desert hues and these like contests that are happening, the alien production
Yeah.
design. There's
Yeah.
like so much of great depth, but it's not for nothing. That's what I love. Like it's not a vain thing. It's in service of the story, but also more importantly, the deep emotion and the deep thinking that he's kind of exploring. And then also, this is a movie which I think welcomes new cast members. I think this is Tom
Mhm.
Hanks' first collaboration. I think he's amazing in the movie. This might be, I think, Jason Schwartzman's best performance in a
Mm.
movie that I've seen. So there are a lot of new people like Maya Hawke and Rupert Friend, like their whole thing is incredible. So I think it's great. Like he's open the tribe, if you will, with more people to come on board. I think this is Adrian Brody's best performance in a while. I mean, of course, Until the Brutalist.
Right.
So yeah, this is one of my favorites. It is a slow burn for sure. Like you can kind of miss a lot of it when you watch it the first time. It's no Grand Budapest, it's no Bottle Rocket
Right.
or Tannenbaum, but I think in this late period, this movie represents the things that he's interested in, which are even more distant from like an emotional standpoint, but they have really rich, deep themes. So yeah, so if you're willing to watch it, a few more times, you'll get something good out of it.
Yeah, this film I have trouble with.
I
Like
know.
I've seen it several times. My opinions keeps going up and down. Actually, on this most recent rewatch, it was more of the down aspect
Uh,
of it than the up. Last time I watched it last year, because I think actually we were gonna do this movie for some other episode. So I watched it and then we changed the episode. So I was, in that movie, I was like that top view, and I was like, oh wow, maybe I kind of get this movie now. So I was hoping to get it even more this time. And actually, yeah, it's a difficult one for me. Like it looks amazing. It's all the classic, Wes Anderson production design. I love the different aspect ratios for the different stories in the Russian Doll, similar to Grand Budapest. And the structure, though, for me, just gets a little, yeah, it
it's a
lost. I
little
get lost in the
tiresome.
weeds.
Yeah.
Well, it's not tiresome. I just get lost in the weeds of like what exactly.
Yeah.
There's almost like too many characters and plot threads that I don't think at least goes up to. Because I also agree. I think this movie is a lot about loss and grief and how you deal with that. And there's usually in his films every aspect of these characters will all kind of like go back to that theme. And here at least maybe I just need to watch it more times. Things like the constant, the cops and robber car chase piece. I'm like, where does this kind of fit in? Or the cowboys and the
True.
song and like it almost just feels like too much. But when I can laser focus in, and again, like the Scarlett Johansson thread of it, the Adrian Brody or the author of the whole plot, those
Ed
parts of the
Norton.
story, yeah, the Ed Norton parts, I think are great. It's like there's too many other things for me going on here, but next time, like it's like we said in the last Wes Anderson episode, and you just said it to her too. Like upon a lot of rewatches, you'll notice different things, and films hit you different times. So it's not to the same where I don't like this movie and I won't watch it again. I do want to keep coming back to it and seeing if maybe it'll just hit me differently. But I was hoping on this one it would, but yeah, I don't know. It was felt even more distant, especially after doing the Wes Anderson movie episode of our previous one, where I'm like, oh, these movies are just all like 10 out of 10s, and I really love Phoenician Scheme a lot. I think that has been his best movie since for a while. And then coming back to this, it still just feels like, I don't know, it doesn't really fully work for me. But I
Mm.
know I'm in a minority. I think a lot of people do think some people think it's his best film.
Oh,
And
I wouldn't go that far,
me neither. No, obviously,
but you never know. Maybe I will say that, like
yeah.
right now as you know, as I said in the last episode, I'm a Darjeeling Limited high. So who knows?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. But it's definitely I think your message of if you see this movie and don't like it or doesn't connect with you, give it another go around. I do think this has a lot of powerful things to say, especially again, like around grief. I mean, I think there's a how you understand and how you deal with that. There's a line I can't remember what part of the Russian doll it is, but it's some line some character says it's like if you even if you don't understand what the play's about, you have to like keep going,
Right.
keep telling the story. I think is a specific line, and I think that is just a great lesson of yeah, grief hits you, loss hits you at a point where no one really expects it. You don't really know how you're going to deal with it, but you have to, even though you don't understand why it happened or how it's going to affect you, you just have to keep living your life and keep going. And I think that to me was the message of the movie, like that
Yeah.
specific line, and that yeah, just have to keep going in life when horrible things happen. Which this movie did come out during COVID, and I think there's a lot of things with the quarantine that happens
Right.
in the film, and like the people talking, who aren't in the same room, the Scarlett Johansson and Jason Schwartzman thing. I just wonder how affected he was by all that was going on at the time, or maybe it just happened to be random that this was developed during COVID. But there are a lot of sort of things I think you can things that he's capturing that was what it was like living through like 2000
100%.
to the 2020 to 2022.
100%. I think it's the best COVID time movie without, hitting
Yeah,
it over the head, which people did try to do
right.
and
They
still
did.
keep trying to do it. I'm like, nobody wants to go back to that
No, we
time.
want a
Do
memory hole.
not,
COVID never happened. We all just want a memory hole and move
exactly.
on. Yeah.
Yes, do not go take us back there. All right, that was my masterpiece. You have the quintessential masterpiece of Scarlett Johansson. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, the Avengers. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
It is Lost in Translation.
Lucy in the Sky? No.
Oh yeah, that wasn't that bad. That movie. I forgot about that one. That Luc Besson film, Lucy. The one Lucy.
Lucy in the Sky
Yeah.
is the diaper one. That's different.
Oh yeah, Lucy. That movie.
Yeah.
Maybe I should. I'm gonna do a last minute switch and do Lucy instead. No, I'm just kidding. We're doing Lost in Translation, which is my masterpiece. This is a film from 2003. IMDb plot summary: a fading star falls for a lonely young woman in Tokyo. and written and directed by Sofia Coppola, starring Scarlett Johansson, Bill Murray as well, who is an actor we covered about five or so episodes ago, and Giovanna Ribisi. So for me, this movie, I think, takes what Scarlett Johansson was starting off on in terms of her persona with like the ghost world thing that we were mentioning of a steely character who you can't really tell her kind of what's going on and a little bit maybe cold and distant, adding some other layers to it, which is that this character that she portrays in this film is definitely lost, as the title mentions. She's in Tokyo. She's in a relationship that clearly isn't very fulfilling. There's something missing in her life. So it's a lot of this steeliness to me that she puts on in this movie almost is feel much more like a shell to protect her inner like confusion and emotions that she doesn't really want to directly express. So I think it's adding a more mature layer to the Scarlett Johansson persona, if you will. I mean, she's still young. This isn't like she wasn't like 45 when she did this film, but it's not as young as like a teenager persona like in Ghost
Hmm.
World. It's more like someone who's getting close to middle age when you actually have to really be making these decisions of kind of what you want to do. And there are things that you can start mentioning are missing from your life that you lived for 25 or 30 years. And I think it also sort of dials back a little bit of her, using this sultriness in a like sexy way. Like she
Right.
doesn't look good in this. Well, she looks good in the movie, but she doesn't dress like,
No.
really sexy or really hot. She's in these frumpy clothes. She's a lot of times she's just sort of like hanging around, not like trying to look good. And I think that is that removes a lot of the sexier elements of what her persona is, and just leaves you with this there's this feeling of like melancholy and mixed emotions that I think she feels throughout this film, which I think is interesting actually too. That parallels a lot of Bill Murray as well, actor we covered, and he also is someone who I think puts on a front. And but it does it through
Hmm.
sarcastic humor and comedy to hide like or to mask emotions he doesn't want to deal with. So it's interesting to see two actors with these different personas, and they're masking it in different ways. Bill Murray with more being like cracking jokes and being really kind of bitingly funny in this film, and then Scarlett Johansson is sort of closing off and like being less expressive because that's the shell that she puts up. So it's just interesting that having covered Bill Murray so more recently, it kind of adds a new layer for this film for me, which I think is a great film. But we'll talk about the film in a bit. But yeah, what were your impressions of Scarlett? And actually, had you seen the film before too? I don't remember.
Yeah. Not when it came out for sure, and not until, very long, but maybe about 5, 6 years ago, I
Okay,
think. And yeah, I don't know why I kept putting this movie off for some reason, even though I love Sofia Coppola and we've talked about many of her movies on this podcast, but I think this movie was so talked about and such a kind of totemic movie that it almost
uh,
felt overwhelming to me to go back to this movie that, but we'll come back to the movie in a second. But yeah, I think she's incredible in this movie. I mean, I knew you were going to pick this, otherwise I would have picked it.
right.
But this
Yeah, we
is,
have to talk about it. Yeah.
yeah, this will be on her obituary, whatever, for sure. And I think all the things that you were saying about the things we've covered in terms of steeliness and reserve, they're all in there. But I actually look at this performance as like a parallel to the Vicky Cristina Barcelona persona that she has in that movie, the character, because they are both lost souls who are seeking something else. The Vicky Cristina Barcelona character sort of takes that more into her hands and kind of puts herself out there, versus in this movie, even though she has a little bit of that where she's putting herself out there, or there's like a little smile or a wink or a flirt or whatever, but it's a lot more reserved, and it's a lot more, like you said, buried under the shell, if you will. Because and that's so much what Sophia does, but also what the text of the movie is, right? Like, and it's interesting, both of these characters are in foreign places,
Right. Right.
you
That's
know
true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it represents and brings out what these places are all about too. Like Spain, even if you're lonely and confused or whatever, it's just so alluring that it brings something out of you, versus Japan and Tokyo. These are cold places, or they can be. The language is totally different. The societies are very much regimented in terms of what your life looks like. It feels a lot more clinical in terms of what you're doing. And yes, on the front face of it, everything feels very polite and interesting, and the Japanese culture can be very inviting and what have you, but there's a distance to it, and so the movie kind of takes off of that, but so does Scarlett's character. It's just so fully fleshed out in terms of where this person is at. And it's kind of remarkable to see someone so young. I mean, she's still pretty young in her
Yeah.
career to
Yeah.
have this level of depth and complexity. And I feel like I'm finding myself being much of a in the fan club of Scarlett as I'm going through this episode. But that's the thing. I forget about her. And then when I start to watch something of her and talk about her, I'm reminded of like how incredible of an actress she is. So again, feature not a bug. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and now, yeah, to get to the film too. Like, I did see this when it came out, and I don't think I'd seen Virgin Suicides yet, so I wasn't,
Mm,
I was aware of Sofia Coppola, obviously the daughter of Francis Ford Coppola, but I just remember being, yeah, like immediately like enthralled by this film, and I saw it because I love Bill Murray, and I think he
mm,
actually does an incredible job in this film too of
yeah.
writing that line of still giving you the classic Bill Murray, physical comedy. I love the scenes when he's on the treadmill or trying to like work out and he can't turn the thing off, and a lot of great banter with the Japanese folks when he's trying to do the whiskey ad. I think that is absolutely hilarious. But there is also this empty, like it's this emptiness too that he is carrying through this film too. It's like two lost souls, and I think the movie does an incredible job in a way there where there is a romance between these two characters, but it's like a platonic romance. It's not
Right.
anything that is physical or sexual at all. It's just these two people that are both experiencing unhappiness with their lives, with something empty, and they just find each other in a city of, yeah, that is also very cold, like you said.
Right.
And the friendship that they develop is something really like unique, and there is like a love there between these two people, but it isn't at all like I don't get very easily this movie could be creepy of like, oh, this old
Right.
man is like, hanging out with this young, mid-20s girl. Like, what's going on here? Is he trying to like kind of get with her? But it's not that at all, at all. Even when they're sharing like a bed, like lying in the same bed together, just having
Right.
these deep conversations. I just never am like kind of, oh, this is kind of weird or creepy. I think that was what this movie does so brilliantly. Like, it does capture how you can have these like this plutonic love for somebody else, even if they're different ages and have different life experiences, because of the specific need that they both have, and they
Yeah.
bond over that. It's a beautiful like friendship movie too. That is something that's so difficult to pull off, and I think they both do such a great job. And I'll throw this to Sofia Coppola too. Like
Yeah.
she, it's I think this is her best film by a country mile. But yeah, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on this film now coming to it a little later than because I've seen this like maybe a dozen times since it's been out. It's one of movie I like a lot and go back to pretty often.
Yeah, this is definitely a movie that I want to put on my rotation because it's kind of a masterpiece, I think, of what they're able
Yeah,
to achieve with it. And just even technically, the way this movie is shot and the feeling it creates and the world it transports you into, where there is allure and magic, because Japan and Tokyo, it's an amazing place, of course, but there's this, like we've been saying, this undercurrent foundational loneliness and being lost and the humor that comes out of it, but also, where am I? And
right,
at
right,
some point, you even forget where are they, like physically, because this could be happening anywhere. Those bars could be in New York, they could be in
right,
London. It's not about the place, it's about what's inside of you. And then almost this spark and joy of meeting somebody who's in the orbit where you are, and that orbit is away from the orbit that everybody else seems to be in. And it's sort of this amazing feeling of finding somebody who kind of sees you, and they captured that so beautifully. Maybe Bill Murray was, like that when he was younger. I don't know. Or maybe it's not even about that. Maybe two people in different circumstances, different age groups can feel like they're in the same place in the same time. That can happen. And I think
right.
this movie captures that so beautifully. And then it sort of has this kind of haunting quality to it. You kind of get lost. Like this is the movie that you can just play, it can just keep running. There's something about it which, and there are many movies that have taken a page from this book, like Past Lives. I kept thinking about that movie as I was watching this movie of like it has sort of that sort of haunting, melancholic, you can't put your finger on it, but yet this alluring, interesting, and you
Uh-huh.
want to be in this world kind of feeling. It's just so hard to capture. But it's not pretentious. It's not like a museum piece art movie that you can't get with, you know? It feels very universal, yet being very auteuristic, you know? And so hard to pull that off, I think. And Sophia herself was so young, you know, making
Oh
this
yeah.
movie. So
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes when you have it in your genes and you make something or whatever you have, it's kind of a miracle, you know? Like it doesn't mean just because you have it in your genes you'll be good, let alone great. But I think she's great in a totally in her own way, which
Right.
is like this movie couldn't be more different from anything that her dad has done.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
It's just so incredible. It's heartwarming for me to see that, you know, like the Francis Ford Coppola is one of the greatest directors that ever lived for with all his flaws and everything, and
Right.
to have a child who can kind of create their own legacy in their own singular way. That doesn't happen very often.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think you're right about this movie being sort of a yeah, like a vibes movie too.
Wise movie, that's the way to put it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like it has a certain feel to it, aesthetic to it. A lot of it, it's not heavy on plot at all. It's just these once these two characters meet, it's like how they're just wandering around in Tokyo and experiencing different things and getting changed too. And I think the movie is very good at capturing a yeah, like a true connection where someone where you might, I mean, I highly doubt these people ever see each other again. Either
No.
it feels like this is it, and sometimes you do run into those people where it's like a day or an afternoon or maybe 2 days, and there's some sort of connection, something's going on, and then you never see them again. But that experience changes you, and I think this experience in this film changes both Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson's characters, even though yeah, it's not like one of those movies where, he's going to be rushing it to the airport as she's taking off. He's like, oh, no, wait, maybe we should, oh, here's my phone number. So, like, they don't even exchange, I don't think they even exchange phone numbers. They're never going to see each other again, but forever they're both changed by it for the better. And you don't really exactly know why, similar to the Vicky Cristina Barcelona movie, too. Like, is he gonna still be with Bill Murray still be with his wife, or like is he gonna change his career, or is Scarlett Johansson gonna stay with Giovanni Ribisi, or do something like we don't really know, but we know something has changed for the better in both of them, and I think that is what is hard to pull off in a movie like this. So for me, there is enough of a bow in this one as compared to the last film of these people are changed, and it's a great film that I really and the cinematography, like you said too, just fantastic. And I've never been to Tokyo, but the way that it's capturing Tokyo in a sense that feels like real, but
Yeah.
yet you feel what that coldness and that isolation there that is something
Yeah.
that people talk about in Tokyo too.
Yeah, I have been, and it definitely captures it beautifully. Yeah.
Yeah, great film. So those were our two masterpieces, and now we're gonna move on to our wild cards. Again, these are the films that are something maybe something different was tried by Scarlett, or a film that we think is overlooked in her filmography. So, Karan, it's your wild card choice.
I know. Okay, so my wild card is the movie Her from 2013, directed by Spike Jonze, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Scarlett Johansson, Amy Adams, Rooney Mara, Chris Pratt. Quick logline: in the near future, a lonely writer develops an unlikely relationship with an operating system designed to meet his every need. I think we covered this movie once before,
We did
right?
on the episode around Joaquin Phoenix.
Right, exactly. So I have to say, like, I think this is the movie, even though Scarlett is not in it physically, just her voice is where I started to take her as a serious actress. Because until then, even though I loved her in the movies that we've talked about so far, but I just didn't put her, in that same bracket. And I was so blown away by what she's able to create, communicate, and conjure purely just through a voice performance. It just felt so singular and so difficult to me for anybody to do, and the movie is very aware of that, right? That
Right.
Scarlett has such a signature voice. So yes, we're going to use it, but then as you see her develop this relationship with Joaquin and the ups and downs and changes of that, the hesitation, the learning, the intelligence, all of that is there, I think. And it is a wild card to me, not just because she's not on screen, but because It's a full spectrum of human emotion that's displayed in this voice, which is true because it's AI, right? It's
Right.
smarter. It understands all the different human emotions they are. It can play it, it can learn it, what have you. So I feel like Scarlett, as we've been saying, she's been very good at playing alluring, reserved, steely, mysterious, maybe little hints of comedy here and there, but this is all of it. She's cracking jokes. I love her laugh of like,
Yeah.
kind of loose laugh that she has. She's questioning, she's concerned, or she's lost interest, or she's sad, she's desperate, trying to kind of make him like her or whatever, believe her as a human. All of it is there, and that's why it's such a brilliant performance. But we'll talk about the movie. But yeah,
Yeah.
what do you think about her in this movie?
Yeah, I do think this is like a seminal performance period, really, like of
Yeah,
this the last, I don't know, 30 or 40 years, like to have a character that is not only not on screen, is only a voice, but also is not a human. Like
right,
this isn't something where it's like she's his girlfriend who is, living in New York and they have a long distance relationship and he's calling her all the time. So she has to pull off this sort of warmness to something that isn't even real. You know it's a computer. Like she
right,
never makes it feel like this is a real human. And there's always something else where she feels this distance, which again, it goes back to like what she does very well. But there's this warmth there too. And I think some of the like my favorite parts of this performance, especially, are towards the end of the film where she's basically first getting called out for I don't want to say like cheating on him, but like
right,
the other people are talking to the same voice. So it's not just Joaquin Phoenix's character. So
right,
she's sort of taken aback by that, and then as she starts, I don't know, finding her own people in these other AIs and starts talking to them and basically is dumping him essentially. Like
right.
those scenes I think are just very yeah, like hard to pull off with just the voice, and I think are some of the more powerful scenes in the film when he's basically yeah getting dumped and realizing like wait a second like there's not only are you talking to other people but they're in ways that I can never relate to, which is something
Yeah,
that can happen and with human relationships too. You realize like we're just never gonna connect on this level that we both need. And those scenes I think are really yeah like emotionally powerful. Where yes, a lot of it is Joaquin being able to act alone on the screen, but that wouldn't be as successful and as powerful and as emotional if there wasn't also that audio component that he was working against and as an audience that you're hearing. So those scenes I definitely want to call out, but I do think this is something where I mean I'm sure they picked her because oh she has a very signature and sexy and noticeable voice, but without the acting to back it up and be able to do this sort of acting with her voice, I just don't think it would have been successful with somebody else. And maybe because her acting style is kind of more deadpan and she's not very expressive and like a Jim Carrey type facial expressions and how she delivers her acting, that not being seen isn't that hard for her maybe to pull off expressing herself because normally she doesn't do it much in her body movements. It's more in her voice and her
mm-hmm.
intonation. So in a way, she might have been preparing for this role in a sense her entire career.
Yeah, that's very well said. Maybe you're right. Yeah, I love those themes too. Maybe I'll pick the other side of the spectrum. I love the falling in love scenes. There's
Oh,
such
yeah.
a I don't think falling in love has been captured like this before. There's this giddiness, to their exchange, and but also excitement, but also hesitation, not wanting to overstep or not wanting to overreach, but still wanting it. Like it's just so playful and sweet and all of that. And of course, Joaquin is brilliant in it, but
Yes.
so is she. I mean, yeah, in her just through her voice, she's able to communicate all of that. It's just so incredible to me. And then the other thing I want to mention is that, which is true of this, if this were real, which we are living in a world where this is real,
Yeah.
not too far along from,
Yeah.
when this movie came out, but she's able to communicate something through her voice that it's almost like we are all Joaquin Phoenix watching the movie as an audience, you know? And that's sort of the power of her performance that you can create your own image of what you think this voice is, in your head. Because humans are visual people, Even if you're blind, you're still, I think, creating something in your mind of what this person feels like, looks like, and when I think of this performance, I'm actually not thinking of Scarlett Johansson's face.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm thinking of somebody else. I can't describe this person. Maybe I can if I like give it some thought, but that's the power of a voice performance that even though this is such a famous person with such a signature voice, she's able to transform not just into one character, but infinite characters, right? Because everybody who's watching it is imagining her, as they want to imagine her. So it's kind of a master stroke of her performance, but also how the movie is mounted, I think.
No, that's a really good point, and that's interesting too. Like as someone who imagines her a lot physically, when I watch this movie, it is just like it's I don't picture anything but a disembodied voice, and like you start falling for or understanding like this voice that is detached now from her physical, what she actually looks like. It's not like I'm thinking, oh, she's in a recording booth or she's on the other end of the line, sitting there talking to Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah, I don't really know. It is, yeah, I guess it's just a disembodied voice. I've never really thought about like what I don't really picture anything specific, not even her. And I think that to your point is why how you said the whole audience is sort of Joaquin Phoenix in this sense. Like you're getting to know this character through only a voice, even though we have, a decade or so of history with Scarlett Johansson on screen. It feels like this is not her at all. It is this new creation of this AI, and like whether this AI has a soul or is alive or anything like that, which the movie isn't necessarily getting into that. I don't think this is about a
Right.
are computers, do computers have souls type of film, but it's very impressive that she's able to do that instead of just picturing, if it was some other person with a famous voice, I don't know, like Jack Nicholson or whatever, like I would think of him, when every time I hear
Right.
that very unique Jack voice or something, it's just her to the her credit in terms of how she's able to act just through through her voice.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
Yeah. And then as the movie, as we've talked about before, I mean, this is sort of a modern masterpiece, I
Yeah,
think, like in terms of its ideas, how it's mounted, the world it builds in this very distant future, oh, sorry, near future that feels very relatable, but yet different. And it's so interesting to watch this movie now, given where we are, where all of this feels a lot more real. In some ways, this movie already feels a little bit more idealistic in its kind of color palette and its sweetness. But of course, that's like one angle of it. Like you could easily
right,
make a movie that feels a lot darker and different, with the same themes. But ultimately, the more I think about this movie, the AI of it and the future of it, futuristicness of it almost is not the point. The point is human relationships,
right,
and like you were hinting at too, like people fall out of love or people, find somebody else who's more interesting or more compelling or somebody else feels more desperate or this kind of parallel relationship that you see between Amy Adams and Joaquin's life, that these are
yeah,
people who are totally sweet, totally good, but for all sorts of reasons have just not, they've been unlucky, but they've also not shown up, fully as they were expected to in their lives. They're sort of left behind. They're a little bit lost in their own world. And now, is that a feature or a bug? Who knows? Maybe they find happiness or maybe they don't. And so the movie has so much on its mind in terms of just relationships and love and how you navigate that. And that's what I take away more from it. I will say, because I've seen it like a few times since it came out, this is true for a lot of science fiction movies, that even though this movie's visual appeal is not reaching, like it feels very relatable, but it's still so signature that my desire to watch this movie again and again has gone down because I already imagined the high-waisted pants and the color palette and like in its ordinariness, it's become like a meme in my head, if you will, as if it would have become if they were wearing like space suits of
oh, I
with
see, I see.
antennas or whatever. Like it doesn't matter. Like the world feels, you know, it feels so specific that it feels kind of mundane and memeified in my head that, oh yeah, this is like the her, LA, Tokyo, China version, whatever. So my desire to rewatch this movie because of that has kind of gone down, but at the same time, it's still a masterpiece. And when I do watch it, I'm blown away by the performances and the deep idea it has on his mind. So yeah.
Yeah. It's I also love this movie a lot. I think it's one of the best movies about love, really. And I think the unique take that this movie takes of like removing the physical part of it, because yeah, like desire and a desire and attraction are very physical. Like you desire someone because of how they look, and you're attracted to them initially because of how they look. But love is that really has nothing to do with that. And because they can't see each other, and well, I guess she can see him technically, but
Hmm.
he can't see her and they can't have a physical connection, then it really is about, well, then what else is love? Well, love is this emotional connection. And this movie definitely goes through like what that, how you fall in love with someone in that way, what the positives are, and then where the shortfalls come too of really then if you're in love with that person in terms of, remove the physical, there's a lot more things that need to happen to make that relationship work. And they eventually grow apart like a lot of people sometimes do because she's now desiring things different intellectually than and even emotionally, I guess, than he can provide, which is normal. And a lot of most human relationships actually don't last. They don't. Like you break up more times than you stay together. So I think this movie is unique in the way that it tackles love, actually, and I think very one of the more real versions of that. And I think having it be a disembodied voice helps it do that. So I don't, yes, it is a sci-fi movie, but I don't think it's one of those movies like, oh, what if AI was real? It's
Hmm.
it's not really about at all. Like the best sci-fi movies are, right? They're not really about the science
Right.
fiction aspects of it. It's just a way for the narrative to make a bigger statement about the human condition. And I do
Totally.
think this is just a brilliant film that can do that so well. And every time I just get more things out of it. And yeah, it's a lot of it is Scarlett, a lot of it is Joaquin, but really like Spike Jonze and what he's
Yeah.
able to bring to this whole world, the aesthetic, the vibe, and yeah, how they approach these very hard to capture on film human emotions. It's just a fantastic film, fantastic film.
Totally. Yeah, and fully fleshed out people, including the AI. You see all
Yeah,
sides of these people. Like you root for Joaquin, you think he's sweet. What a sweet job to be writing these cards
I
and what
know.
have you.
Yeah,
And then, like all people, you discover other sides of like, okay, if his desperation and or maybe even lack of ability to communicate with the real people in his life then makes you question, wonder, okay, what's going on over here? What are the things that he needs to grow in, and can he? And is the falling of the relationship just because Scarlett, the AI, has, smarter and has more, or is it because of Joaquin's inabilities? And it's both, actually,
right,
right? Which is true for all relationships. Like it's always both sides that are contributing to why something works or doesn't work. So
right,
it's just so smart and yet so heartfelt and tender, and not, it could feel like a very cerebral, cold movie, but it's actually the opposite, which
right.
is so hard to pull off in all these heady ideas and with AI and everything and love, but it feels like a very feely movie, actually.
Definitely. No, definitely
Yeah.
agree. And I think it's the fact that they only have one actor physically there. Like, I think it forces them to then add these other things because if you
Yeah.
didn't have those other layers to it, it just wouldn't, the movie, you wouldn't have anything to connect with. It just like, it'd be a one man show of Joaquin Phoenix, which it isn't, but it isn't, right? At the same time. Like he has to carry a lot, but you have to have that disembodied voice there. And what Scarlett does is great. And I think maybe the testament to the fact that that company was trying to steal her voice because of that
Mm.
performance is so signature, right? This film and
Hmm.
her performance in it is so signature that they're like, okay, well, how do I imagine an AI voice? Well, it's Scarlett Johansson now. I think that just shows the power of this film just culturally and how resonant it was that they tried to steal her voice, and then she rightfully fought back and
Yeah.
yeah, stop that. So,
Yeah. All right. What is your wild card?
so my wild card is the film Under the Skin from 2013. This is a film which has a plot summary of a mysterious young woman seduces lonely men in the evening hours in Scotland. However, events lead her to begin a process of self-discovery. So this is directed and written by Jonathan Glazer, basically starring Scarlett Johansson. I don't really think anyone else is in this film of note. It's a lot of kind of no-name Scottish actors and real people. So This is a film I actually recently saw about a year ago for the first time, and definitely left a huge lasting impression on me. I think it's a great film. We'll talk about that in a bit. But in terms of why, for me, this is a wild card for Scarlett Johansson, it's that we were talking about in a way it's kind of the reverse of her, where
Hmm.
with her she has to communicate with her voice and give all these emotions and create this character with nothing but her voice. And in this movie, it's at least for the most of the screen time in the film, she's essentially just a body. It's an empty vessel character. She plays an alien in this film who inhabits a body of a woman. So she has a physical appearance, but she's completely empty on the inside. Versus what Scarlett typically does is she puts on like this emptiness on the outside because that's like a shell, right? She's trying to hide something on the inside. But for the majority of this movie, there is literally nothing on the inside. This alien is just doing these things, and then gradually discovers their, I guess I wanted to say like empathy, what it's like to be human, but discovers the empathy and what it's like to be alive towards the end of the movie. So this is something kind of outside of the box of what she normally would do. It's just taking the outside actions of her for the majority of the film, and then also too from a production standpoint, I learned this after I saw the film. A lot of it was just like improv with real people on the streets. Like they just sent her out, like Jonathan Glazer set up these like hidden cameras in this van as she would drive around these towns in Scotland and just be interacting with strangers to get this real life what it would be like for this alien to feel outside of yeah, like a fish out of water, where literally now the actor is having to do the same thing, which I don't know how much experience she necessarily has with that, but it's a pretty bold choice for her to go in a with a film like this direction of doing something not only where the production is so unique, but also this character is so different from what she's done before, and also so exposing. I mean, like she's
Hmm.
nude in a lot of this in a lot of this film, but not in a way that is like necessarily sexualized at all. Which is also very interesting too, like using her good looks or having her good looks, but not using them in that way. But again, I love the film too, but I thought this had to be mentioned in terms of something very unique in any actress to be able to do something like this, but especially Scarlett Johansson because it's kind of like taking away a lot of the things that you would associate with her. So, what are yeah? Well, again, we'll talk more in the film in a bit, but what were your thoughts on Scarlett in this film, and had you seen the movie before?
Yeah, I saw it when it came out and was blown away by it, disturbed by it, transfixed by it, and then sort of put it on the side and had not revisited it for a while. And it was so thrilling to kind of come back to it now, and especially after Zone of Interest. I mean, this is like a master director for
Yeah,
sure. But yeah, as far as Scarlett is concerned, yeah. First of all, not many people can even do this, and not many people will make the choice to do a movie like this. And for someone of her reputation, somebody who's in big tentpole movies, I mean, this movie came out while the Marvel movies are
that's
coming
right.
out,
Right,
right?
yeah,
It's
year after
like,
Avengers, yeah,
yeah, it's insane for anybody to be taking a risk like this and something that's so, I mean, this is as arty as it gets. Like, she barely has any lines in the movie.
right,
And then so exposing and the way the movie is mounted, and it's definitely not for everybody, this movie.
right.
But she's absolutely incredible in it, and everything you said, I think it's a wild card to me from a point of a choice that she's made in doing this movie, but in terms of her persona and the kind of things she's been interested in, like this feels very much like the progression of that, right? Like, okay, this is somebody who's mysterious and alluring, but how do we just remove the, like you said, the inside hidden stuff and just have this person just as a shell
Right.
for more than half of the movie? But then, like a lot of great art movies, not much happens, but then there's a small thing that happens that changes everything. But because nothing has happened with this person for so long, that little thing that they do stands out so much, right? So when she has these experiences of feeling or seeing the empathy, but the brutality of the human experience, she's almost like she's like a broken doll whose head has been like tilted, you
Uh-huh.
know? And there's sort of this expression of confusion that's perpetual. and it's so jarring because up till now you've just seen her play two levels, right? She's the steely shell alien, or when she's luring these guys in the van, you see like a little bit of that, you know, kind of younger Scarlett, sexy, alluring, but it's still very performative. Like it feels like a machine is doing that. It's
Right.
not a human being. So you see only those two levels. And then there's this sort of this confused, altered persona that she's in now. And it's just so brilliantly performed that because even the alien doesn't know why this is happening,
Right.
right?
Right.
So she's portraying confusion, but usually confusion's played by an actor are rooted in something because they understand it as the person that they're playing. This is an alien who doesn't understand why is this happening to me? Because I don't know if this alien even knows what me is. I don't think. So you're sort of playing this confusion purely on the outside, but your body is also carrying the confusion because the body has been kind of jolted and shocked by what it's experienced. So yeah, it's sort of otherworldly of what she's doing and what the movie is able to achieve from this, and what a daring thing to do. I mean, yeah, not many people will do this. And I'm
No,
just
no.
blown away by her and this movie, and then that scene when she you see the alien and the transformation of it and everything leading up to it. Like it's too much. It's too good. It's too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I was, I had only seen this movie after watching Zone of Interest and loving that and realized
Mm,
that I had never seen his middle film, Jonathan Glazer's middle film. So I went back and watched this and was just completely, yeah, like floored by how good of a movie this was and just the exploration of, yeah, like empathy and humanity. And yes, the some of the bad, obviously, but more so like the good, I think, is what this movie, the alien is sort of realizing what human connection is, and through just interacting with other people, which I think is true. Like that's how you develop empathy, right? You get exposed
right.
to more and more people, and just how this movie too starts out very empty, where there really isn't many other people other than her in the film and then her victims. And then there's that middle section once she starts really experiencing the, what humans are really like and realizing that there are other people are having emotions. There's that great scene where she's in that crowded streets in somewhere in Scotland. And the camera just
Hmm.
going around like kind of a documentary, just showing the day-to-day lives of all these people, and you're
Hmm.
sort of like, as an audience, oh yeah, that person has their own life and they have their own experiences and they're feeling their own things, and in the same way that the alien is figuring all this stuff out too. And then obviously, then at the end, it goes back to more isolated. You're alone, at the end of the day too, when she's starting to see the more negative sides of humanity at the end of the film. And I just love that how the movie is sort of taking you on this journey too, and showing like that, how important it is, yeah, to understand other people and just realize that, other people are living their own lives and going through their own experiences, and you can't, yeah, like make kind of judgments about them or what they're experiencing. And then also too, it's not just you in the world either. And I
Right.
think those are the important things that I think Jonathan Glazer does a great job of doing, and then showing also that human connection is what brings these things out. It's like she gradually is getting love from other people, and then that's when she starts seeing it happen. Like that one guy who she meets with, and they go on a little date to like the castle and everything, and he is,
Hmm.
showing her kindness, and not just seeing her as an object, which a lot of the people, and she goes out to the nightclubs. A lot of the men in the beginning of the movie are just trying to like sleep with her basically, and don't see her as anything else. And once she starts getting treated this way by this other guy, she's starting to realize, oh, wow, there's these other things, and then I can start being kind too and return to different people. And it's just, yeah, just a very simple movie where you're right, nothing much really goes on, but the themes I think are really, really heady and very, yeah, easy to kind of understand in a way. Even though a lot of this movie is avant-garde, and the
Right.
sort of the basic plot is hard to follow, but I think the theme is very obvious and easy to follow in the film.
Totally. And then, to add to that, we have to mention the incredible score of the
Oh
movie and
yeah,
how that's constructed by Mika Levy. And she had this amazing run of Jackie and this movie. The score is just absolutely incredible.
yeah,
But it's an essential part of the character design of the alien, but also the world that she's living in because, we are looking at the world through her eyes for at least the first half of the movie.
right.
And the score does a great job, but also I think it's I was thinking about this time watching it, rewatching it the second time, which is that it's purposeful that the movie's in Scotland where there's something kind of eerie and mysterious about the place to begin with. You
Right.
know, the beach scenes, and even later in the movie where they're in this amazing landscape where it's like the forest, the woods, and the water, and the fog is like rolling in front of the water. It's like otherworldly. It feels like you're on a different planet. So there's that. But also there's something about the Scottish dialect, which is English, but you also don't understand much of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
as most English speaking people, right? No offense to Scots,
We love the
but
Scots. Yeah.
yeah,
I've been to
but it's
Scotland,
just
beautiful place. Yeah.
yeah, it's just different, right? So I think that's purposeful in my mind because you're kind of in her shoes driving this van. These guys come up, they say some stuff, you sort of understand it, but you don't really. You kind of start to feel like an alien a little bit yourself from her point of view.
Right.
And until she starts to feel a little bit more of that human empathy, all the people in the malls and such, like the shots of them eating, they're sort of overweight and hobbling along, wearing ill-fitted clothes that they shouldn't be wearing. They look like aliens, actually, you know? I mean, this is I'm my own thing coming out. I find the act of licking an ice cream cone the weirdest alien-like expression.
How do you eat
Speaking
ice
like
cream?
with a cup, with a spoon, like a normal
You're not
human
a
being.
cone person?
Never.
What? I just had an
It's
ice cream
just
cone
so
last night.
odd to me to like stick your tongue out and then lick something.
Oh
It's
man,
so
dude,
odd to
you're
me.
missing out on some of the joys of life. Look at an ice
I
cream
know.
cone. Okay, this is a whole. We'll have to have another.
We'll
This is
have
an
to have
offline
another
conversation.
thing.
We'll have to have about this.
I know, but this is a me thing.
But
I understand it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But this is those kind of visuals, like
Right.
to me, when they show all these different people in malls and what is this life? What do they do? And they're all sort of lonely, walking around, what have you. And then you start to see, as she's seeing more of the humanity of the movie, it's just so masterfully, subtly crafted.
No, definitely. I think the movie and the style in terms of how they shot it does feel a lot like a documentary from like a
Yeah,
wildlife documentary where you're going into this place where you are the alien, right? So you are seeing it a lot through her eyes and
right.
that's why I think it's great. Like you can see then her character transformation a lot more and really understand what empathy is because in the beginning it's sort of everything is kind of distant. And yeah, those guys that are kind of coming up to her, you're sort of like this it feels weird like what's going on which I think it helped too with how they shot the film. I don't know how much of that was improv that is sort of left in the film, but maybe that helped sort of capture that sense of just like what's happening, like this is unexpected. But no, I think it's a great way that Jonathan Glazer made the film in a very, very unique way. I think he is an incredible talent, especially after seeing this film, because I'd seen Sexy Beast, his first one, when it came out and liked it, but wasn't super into it.
I've not
You
seen
know,
that one. I need
it's
to.
fun. It's definitely
Yeah.
something you should check out. But after seeing Zone of Interest and then this, I mean, he's only really made, or he has only made three movies, and they're all
There's
so
another
different.
one, Birth.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Birth. Yeah, four. They're all so different in
Totally
theme
different.
and style that is just incredibly impressive. Like he is definitely one to watch, and hope he makes more movies because he's made so few over the
Yeah.
years. I hope he kind of speeds up his output because it's just fantastic. And this film really sat with me for a long, long time, and then coming back to and rewatching for this too, it just still lived up to those memories I had of how powerful the film was last year when I first watched it.
Yeah.
It's a great film, and he's a great filmmaker.
Great film, and it's sort of telling, right? In her career, like our wild cards of her are actually in my the more I think about it, they're probably her masterpieces, right? Because they're
Yeah.
so different, distinct, and they're not even utilizing all of her. They're utilizing like hyper focusing on one aspect, and then that aspect, whether it's the voice or the physicality, that's been used to then create the full character, which is kind of incredible. Nobody has this kind of a career, these kind of movies. It's pretty amazing.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, she's very unique, and hopefully will be making films for a long time. So on that note, then, what would you like her to see do next?
I think comedy, you know? I mean, she's had an amazing SNL run. She's done some amazing sketches. I mean, her life partner is through SNL and what have you. So I would love to see. I mean, she's done a few comedies. Like, was she in one of those like girls' night kind of movies? I feel
Yeah,
like.
she did. I can't remember which one it was called. There's so many of
Yeah.
those kind of like
Rough Night or something like
yeah,
I
something
forget
like
what.
that.
Yeah.
Right, right, right.
But I would like her to do like a real comedy with somebody, who's really good at it. And I mean, I know comedies are hard to come by. So yeah, that's what I would like her to see her do. What
Yeah,
about
I'm
you?
interesting. Like I was thinking the same thing, and that her. It's interesting because like her the movies that she's made that are actual out and out comedies have not been very good. Like you
Yeah.
just mentioned the one, and she was in that uh, Nanny Diaries, which also was pretty terrible. So, but and yet she's funny in other movies. Like I thought she was
Yeah.
very funny in Vicky Cristina Barcelona. Obviously,
Yeah.
in Ghost World, I think she's very very funny. She's got that deadpan stuff down, and like you said, she's good on SNL. So it's like the right vehicle. I don't think it's like these mainstream comedies that she's
No.
been in. It just doesn't really work. And she is such a unique, like we just mentioned with these last two films we were talking about. She can do these really unique projects. So I wonder if there's some really high concept comedy that she can be in that is a little more like offbeat and different that she could, stretch herself and do something unique. Because yeah, I think the even though yes, comedies aren't really being made now, they should be made more. And she, I think, is uniquely positioned to do something interesting in the comedy space. So I definitely would love
Yeah.
to see her.
I also feel like that was my other thing with Jurassic. Like you've been in this huge tentpole Marvel universe, like taking on like another one of these. I mean, I get it. You want the money, it's fine, but you have this amazing cultural cachet. You're one of the few movie stars that's globally recognized. You're talented. Like go do something more interesting. But then I'm reminded that she does a lot of interesting stuff too, and
Yeah,
she's
she
directing
does.
a movie
Right.
with June Squibb, which comes out this year. So yeah, I think she'll be fine.
Yeah, she'll be fine. But I want her to do more. Like I think comedy would be because she did so good at this blockbuster stuff.
Yeah,
That just do something comedy. Bring comedy back. Help bring that
yeah,
back.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
okay, well
All
that was
right.
our Scarlett Johansson episode. Hopefully, folks enjoyed that. Why don't you let us know what's coming up in 2 weeks? We're doing something a little more unique this time than we've done in the past. What's our next episode?
Yeah, our next episode is going to be about, oh, is it a bird? Is it a plane? Oh, what is it? It's Superman.
That's right. Superman. So we're doing the new Superman film by James Gunn, but then also covering just Superman on film. So this is the first time we're taking a fictional character and talking about him. I think Superman means a lot to me. Viewers of our YouTube show obviously know that you like Superman. There's a poster behind you of Superman, so it'll be fun to delve more into Kal-El, Clark, the whole world. So that'll be really fun. That episode is dropping in 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Well, this is our episode. You can find us here on YouTube or on all the podcasting platforms. We hope you enjoyed our conversation about Jurassic World Park Rebirth,
Dinosaurs, a dinosaur movie.
dinosaur movie, and ScarJo, and let us know what you thought about our picks. If you have any different movies that you want to shout out, and if you agreed or disagreed with our take on the new Jurassic movie. But as always, we really appreciate your comments and likes and subscriptions because all of that helps other listeners find us. So until next time, see you soon.
See you soon, Karan.